Talk about a chapter that was frustrated, argumentative even. But finally our two main characters have met, but it isn't going as well as we might have thought. This video, however, is sponsored by Viz. Tatsuki Fujimoto's Look Back, its physical volume, will be releasing September 20th. So go and pre-order or read it now. Click on the link in the description. Don't miss out. These will sell quick. Add it to your collection. You will not regret it. For me, there's something special about Chainsaw Man Part 2, and it comes through with its characters and how tangible they really are. They're extremely identifiable. They have so much love and appreciation kind of poured into them from top to bottom. The way they're created, how they move within the world, how they act or respond to things, everything feels super specific but natural. And this isn't to say that we haven't had this within Chainsaw Man's manga, but I think the level that we're currently getting now with how Fujimoto can really take his time to build the characteristics up for these people is a lot more intense, which means the payoff that we get for them is a lot more intense. And because of that, you can potentially connect to them better or understand them better or really just create a broader profile for their whole character. A great example of this for me is Yoru, the war devil. The way this chapter starts is super simple, which you see Yoru kind of just throwing a tantrum, really. Someone that's super upset, super frustrated with the fact that they were saved by Chainsaw Man. And then you slowly dive into the understanding of why Yoru was frustrated, and it was because of the bits and pieces that have been eaten and erased off of them. This is really powerful. It's simple in its approach, but very valuable, very powerful. As you're learning about Yoru's emotional investment into the things that have been lost, that have been erased from existence, that were a part of them, you also connect it to that prior frustration that obviously leads you into it. But then you see kind of more of the vulnerable side of it, which never really gets answered, and we've always shied away from it when it comes to Yoru as an individual. Obviously, being the identity of war, having something like that as a whole probably wouldn't be the best thing, or you would think naturally that it wouldn't connect or fit well with that idea. However, with what we have known about Yoru, this is clearly wrong. There's more to them. There's more to their history. There's more to their understanding of Chainsaw Man and how they perceive Chainsaw Man. There's more to themselves as a being, their emotions, how they act, the things that they've lost. Is Yoru scared of being forgotten? Probably so. And I imagine that takes a toll when portions of your identity genuinely become forgotten, which we know is a fact when it comes to them describing the world wars and specific terrors of war within there. Makima also penned off the fact that the Second World War was forgotten, nuclear weapons were forgotten, probably a lot of other specific things relating to war crimes were forgotten, and these are all part of Yoru's identity. So understandably, a bit of frustration, but the more we see it, the more it's clashed with Asa being very questionable about everything and just being honestly a companion, a friend, someone to listen, someone to lean on. I think is very beautiful, and I love it. It creates this super interesting duality or balance between them that is being explored in a lot of different ways, but they both somewhat rotate in the grand picture around Denji, or Chainsaw Man specifically. Speaking of Denji, we finally get to see him in school, and my first thought was that he was being bullied, that somehow, someway, because of his innocence to the world, people were taking advantage of him. They definitely are taking advantage, but not more so in the overly bullied way that you would normally think. I guess you could say there's different levels of bullying, but with the experiences of what Denji's been through and what he hasn't actually experienced within school, obviously this whole situation is very new to him, he sees this as a prime opportunity to belittle himself to make money. Mind you, the idea of being belittled is barely a thing in his mind because of where he's come from, what he's been through. He's not really going back down to the bottom of doing these weird tasks because he's making money. And before, he didn't have money. He struggled to make money. He done worse things to make money. He sold his body parts to make money. He sacrificed his health. He didn't eat food. So these little things for me really nicely bring home the idea of Denji and how he's kind of taking the whole schooling situation. Yoshida eventually steps in to talk with Denji, and he's very persistent about Denji keeping his identity secret and the things that it would take for it to be so. Turns out, it would be getting him a girlfriend. So yes, we are going down that avenue very quickly, but it's not going to be as easy as Denji thought. And I just want to reiterate that this whole conversation that they're having right now is with Yoshida sitting on Denji as a chair. So he paid him money because what Denji was doing prior, Yoshida was acting as someone's chair for a little bit of money. It shows the extreme that Denji is willing to go through just to make that tiny extra bit to get by. And as funny and quirky as it is, I would like to believe it doubles as him working extra hard to take care of Nayuta, which kind of bridges that emotional connection a lot more to the idea, which which we probably won't see for a handful of chapters, so at this point it's just kind of funny. But later on it could be kind of like, damn, that's pretty sad. Kishibe really left him here with no support potentially. Here it is, the grand meeting between Asa and Denji. For the first time, these two are talking to each other. It did not go the way that we thought it would, which I guess makes sense because it can't all be smooth sailing. These two are very turbulent. They are very destructive with each other, at least right now, right? They don't really know each other. They're very opinionated. They're very strong in what they understand, and you can see it. I like this for both of them, obviously, but Asa is, funny enough, very argumentative, and comfortably so, which is the first time we're ever seeing it. I guess you could argue we've seen portions of it between her and Yoru, but between another person, not really. So it was very refreshing to see her question the very idea of Chainsaw Man's existence, all of the bad that he does. And of course, knowing Denji, he responds to all of this like he is Chainsaw Man, not in some sort of theoretical, hypothetical way, but confidently. And so much so that even Asa picks up on this, basically throwing the point back in his face, saying, how would you know this? You have no proof, you have no hard evidence, you can't just claim these things to be true. And you can see the visible frustration on both of them. Like, these two are clashing, and I love it. Mostly because we're seeing sides of them that we haven't really seen before. Even though it's still early with Asa, this side of her personality was never there. So seeing it come out for the first time with Denji feels rather nice. And I think this sets up a really good premise and a problem-solving situation for their relationship to grow even further. It makes sense that it's not going to be the easiest thing. I think we all were kind of on the same idea that there's a chance she's just going to be head over heels in love, or maybe Yoru would be head over heels in love, something kind of finicky and weird, right? Typical Fujimoto fashion. We're still getting that, but just a different Fujimoto way. It's not the head over heels, but the same problem, quote unquote, that would be within there, the quirkiness, I should say, is that they're going to be very difficult with each other and they're going to clash quite often until the truth eventually comes out. See, Denji gets so frustrated from this conversation because he's kind of just pushed into here as being like the biggest Chainsaw Man fan you can imagine, and he's defending it for his life, but it gets to a point where he just gives up. He can't respond properly because Asa has basically cornered him, and he says, I'm Chainsaw Man. Like, I am the Chainsaw Man, out and out, through and through, straight to her face. And she looks at him and calls him a loser. And he is so incredibly stunned by this that I couldn't help but feel bad for him. Like, it's just one of those moments you feel the knot inside of your stomach turn, like it's just cringeworthy. And you can't help but feel bad for the situation in total between both of them. The paneling work in here, but for this moment specifically, is beautiful. Like, you see it zoom in closer and closer and closer onto Denji's face the more he's getting frustrated, and then it pulls all the way back out to frame both of them in a singular page. But then you get this close-up with Asa's response being loser, and then you see her walk away. But Denji's face is kind of just stunned. He's shocked, he's confused. Why didn't it work? Why did no one believe me? And this is where Yoshida chimes in and kind of affirms that it's not going to be that simple. People aren't just going to believe you when you say that you're Chainsaw Man, or at least like that. Obviously actions speak louder than words, but I do think this is also meant to show a bit of spark between there, at least on Asa's side. See, I think she took it as bad as she did right here because within the opening of the chapter, we see her thank Chainsaw Man to herself while she's sleeping, and Yoru's having this frustration, eventually passes out like a tired child. Asa is very grateful that she's still alive because of Chainsaw Man, even though for a long time she felt like she didn't want to live. So you can imagine when that's pushed in front of you the next day with Denji and then him claiming to be Chainsaw Man, there's a bit more of a reason to be disappointed. Straight out calling him a loser, I think is hilarious, but it's gonna make for a very interesting reveal, that's for sure. Whenever Denji becomes Chainsaw Man again, or maybe saving Asa or whatever it may be, the cat and mouse game between Yoru and Chainsaw Man as well, it's all there. It's all brimming with excitement. It's just going through the very early stages of both of their characters, and I love it. I love the clash, I love the conflict, I love how they're very odd and weird with each other because they're just meeting, but the future is looking ever brighter, ever more exciting as we continue to move forward with Denji, Yoru, and Asa, but also as a total group with Yoshida and Yuko. The entire dynamic between them is very exciting to think about. The things that they could get up to, the trouble that they could find themselves in, and the complexity of Denji balancing his personal life with his devil hunting life. I am positive we are all eager for the future. To end this off, go pre-order, buy, read Tatsuki Fujimoto's Look Back. Don't miss out. These were so quick. Click the link within the description, add it to your collection. You will not regret it.